What would it feel like to have a wife from 1,000 years ago? Excitement, joy, happiness, or a lingering sense of unease? After getting home, Qing took a hot shower and then downed a bottle of soda, enjoying the moment to the fullest. Watching the torrential rain pouring outside the window, he fell into thought. As the rain grew heavier, he picked up an umbrella and looked out through the peephole, only to find the hallway empty. The strangely dressed girl from earlier was nowhere to be seen. He opened the door to take a closer look, and suddenly the girl appeared before him, her face tense, an awkward silence hanging in the air. Qing broke the silence and quickly asked where she lived. "It's getting dark. If your place isn't far, I can lend you an umbrella. Go home quickly," he said. Zhang He asked. "Where is this place?" Qing replied. "Beiwang Lujia community." At that moment, Zhang He's mind was in complete chaos. She asked again, "Who are you?" Qing sighed helplessly. "Just call me Lei Feng," he said. Zhang He then began to introduce herself. "I am a disciple of the Salt Gang. I don't know why I've come to this place." Looking at this overly dramatic girl, Qing felt helpless and decided to ask the security guard for help. He also kindly invited Zhang He inside. One home, 2 people, 3 meals a day. Through all 4 seasons, the love between Zhang He and Qing, spanning 1,000 years, began from that moment. Qing tried to contact Uncle Zhao, the security guard. When images appeared on the television, Zhang He, perhaps out of fear, struck it with her sword, shattering the screen in a single blow. Uncle Zhao heard the loud noise over the phone and asked with concern what had happened. Qing casually made up an excuse and hung up. Witnessing everything that had just occurred, Qing felt both heartache and helplessness. He asked about Zhang He's background again, but she replied in a terrified voice, "How did those people come out just now? And who were you talking to?" Faced with the situation, Qing dared not speak out in anger. He hurriedly asked her to put her sword away, assuring her that he meant no harm, and once again asked about her past. Zhang He explained her origins and how she came to be here. Her name was Zhang He, a disciple of the Salt Gang. Qing, however, knew nothing about this Salt Gang. It was as if such a place had never existed at all. What shocked Zhang He even more was that Qing had never even heard of the Gusu Salt Gang. How would Qing deal with all of this? Have you ever experienced loneliness at its absolute extreme? At that moment, Zhang He was going through a kind of loneliness she had never known before. Everything around her was unfamiliar, leaving her completely at a loss. I looked at her. She was so confused, so helpless. Trying to calm her anxiety, I said gently, "You can ask me anything. I'll do everything I can to help you." Zhang He replied weakly, "I want to go home." Her voice pitiful and fragile. "Zhang City, Yongkang New District, Beiwang Lujia Community, do you know it?" she asked, but then shook her head helplessly. I couldn't help thinking, could she really be from ancient times? Should I actually ask who the emperor is? When I mentioned the emperor, a flicker of familiarity finally appeared on her face. I seized the opportunity and asked, "Which emperor are you talking about?" But her answer made no sense at all. So I tried another angle. "Then what year do you think it is now?" She looked genuinely confused. "Isn't it the 16th year of the Kaiyuan era?" she said. At that point, it was clear she wasn't joking. I quickly searched Emperor Xuanzong of Tang on my phone, but something still felt off. She didn't even recognize the name Li Longji. Then I tried again. "What about Li Bai, the poet immortal?" At the sound of Li Bai's name, Zhang He lit up like she just heard of an old friend and eagerly asked where he was now. Just then, my food delivery arrived. The sudden noise instantly put her on guard. I hurried to explain that it wasn't an enemy and asked her to calm down and stay out of sight. After taking the delivery, I wanted to share the food with her, but she politely refused. Then she asked a question that completely caught me off guard. "Why do people here shave their heads?" I arrived here an hour ago and went out to take a look. My mind immediately started racing, imagining all the possible consequences had someone already gotten hurt. Pretending to be casual, I asked, "No one noticed you, right?" When she confirmed that no one had, I finally felt a bit relieved. As for the shaved heads, I told her she could think of it as a custom, nothing particularly special. Staring at the food she didn't recognize at all, Zhang He couldn't help swallowing. I tried once more to share with her, but she still refused, so I offered her a soda instead. To my surprise, she suddenly snapped. "Are you looking down on me?" she demanded. I hurried to explain that I wasn't, but at the same time, the soda was knocked over, spilling onto the floor, bubbles hissing nonstop. As we both stared at the fizzing liquid, I realized my life might actually be in danger. Instinctively, I blurted out that it wasn't poison, it was just a carbonated drink. But how could Zhang He possibly understand that? At that moment, the edge of her sword was only 0.01 centimeters from my neck. And yet, somehow, I knew that in the very next second, the woman holding that sword would fall in love with me. What kind of love story would it be if the person you fell in love with came from 1,000 years ago? Zhang He thought I meant to harm her. To prove that I had no bad intentions, I downed an entire bottle of soda on the spot and explained that it was just a drink. that I had no intention of poisoning her. Speaking gently, I told her I was a good person and asked her not to draw her sword so casually next time. Looking at Jang Hae standing there like a child who knew she'd done something wrong, my heart was a mess. How was I supposed to deal with this situation? Should I trick her into leaving and let her fend for herself? She'd probably end up on the news within 3 days, or should I call the police and let them handle it? But if I told them she came from 1,000 years ago, who would believe me? Just thinking about it gave me a headache. How was I supposed to solve a problem this big? And yet, watching Jang Hae face everything with such confusion, she somehow still seemed a little adorable. After a fierce internal struggle, I decided to let her stay. When she looked at the food in my hands, her eyes lit up, yet she still refused my offer and asked what it was I was eating. To put her at ease, I took a bite first. Jang Hae swallowed instinctively. It was obvious she was hungry too. To completely reassure her, I thoughtfully ordered a fresh delivery just for her. While waiting for the food to arrive, I decided it was time to talk to her seriously. Although everything around her felt unfamiliar, she at least recognized an umbrella and she could sense the kindness in my heart. Still, the strange food and not knowing where she was made her uneasy. I struggled with how to explain it all, and after thinking it over again and again, I first asked her to put her sword away. For Jang Hae, where this place was no longer seemed to matter. What she truly wanted was to go home. Seeing her so fragile and pitiful made my chest ache. With a trace of sadness in my voice, I said, "You might not be able to go back because your home is very, very far from here." Jang Hae asked anxiously, "How far is that?" "More than 1,000 years away." She still didn't seem to understand, so I explained it carefully. This world was 1,200 years after the time she came from. Her emperor, her friends, and everything she had ever known had already vanished into the river of history, becoming nothing more than the past. Jang Hae clearly couldn't accept this truth. Honestly, no one could. I said to her, "You're a smart person. You've seen the outside world. You must already have your own judgment." I understood then that she wasn't being aggressive. She was terrified. If I was suddenly thrown 1,000 years into the future, I would probably react the same way. In the end, Jang Hae still couldn't accept the reality before her. She turned around and prepared to leave. What does it feel like to have a wife from 1,000 years ago, one who was unexpectedly sweet and adorable? Jang Hae couldn't really tell whether what I said was true or not, but thinking back on how we met, she could at least tell that I meant no harm. She asked why I was helping her, and to be honest, the reason was probably just curiosity. I told her sincerely that if she wanted any chance of going back, the first thing she had to learn was how to live in this world. Rule number 1, never hurt people casually. Rule number 2, don't destroy things without reason. Those were my conditions for helping her. If she couldn't accept them, she was free to leave right then and there. I gave her some time to think, to decide whether she wanted to stay or go. After a moment, Jang Hae said pitifully that she knew nothing about this place, that her clothes were completely different from everyone else's, and that she had nowhere to go. I told her to put her sword down first and that I would order her some food, making it clear that letting her stay was actually bringing trouble on myself. Not only did I have to worry about her being discovered by others, I also had to fear being cut down by her sword because of some misunderstanding. Hearing that, Jang Hae obediently dropped her sword onto the floor. After ordering the food, I looked at her, soaked from head to toe, and told her to take a hot shower first. I led her into the bathroom where she stared at everything in fear, and I patiently explained that this world was full of strange and amazing things, telling her that as long as I was there, she didn't need to be afraid. I carefully showed her how to use the bathtub, the shampoo, and even explained what the toilet was for. I also found her some clean clothes and brought them over, telling her to wear mine for the time being since I didn't have any women's clothing at home, and that I would buy her proper clothes the next day. Once everything was settled, I collapsed onto the sofa and let out a long sigh. Jang Hae, meanwhile, was filled with curiosity about everything around her, while I felt as though everything that had happened was unreal, like a dream I might wake up from at any moment. Just as I was writing a shopping list, Jang Hae came out of the bathroom staring at me with an innocent, slightly dazed expression, and at that moment she looked unbelievably cute. The list was filled with things she would need, since her clothes were clearly too big for her, and the straw sandals on her feet looked completely out of place, so I told her to throw them away, and she obediently did as I said. The food I had ordered arrived soon after, and I quickly urged her to eat, and watching her sweet smile, I felt a quiet wave of happiness rise in my heart. Taking care of a wife from 1,000 years ago is an experience in itself, and one that comes with the constant risk of accidentally getting yourself killed. This was exactly the situation Shu Qing found himself in. After Jang Hae had finished her takeout, Shu Qing decided it was time to have a proper talk with her, starting with the basic rules. She couldn't go around swinging swords or guns recklessly. For example, the TV in front of them was just a device for entertainment. It wouldn't hurt anyone. Shu Qing pointed to the smartphone in his hand and explained that it was another form of entertainment. To put Jang Hae at ease, he reassured her, "There are many things I do that you might not understand, but that's completely normal. I won't hurt you." After explaining this, Shu Qing let out a long sigh, looking out at the world beyond the window. While the outside world felt safe for him, for Jiang He, it was full of hidden dangers. She didn't understand why he said that, so Shu Qing explained, "You are someone who appeared out of nowhere. You don't really fit into this world, and you don't even have an official identity yet." Dazed and confused, Jiang He described herself as a wanderer, but Shu Qing didn't agree. He knew the reality was probably far worse. In short, this world was extremely dangerous for her. Despite the risks, Shu Qing was genuinely happy to have met Jiang He, and that was why he was willing to help her. After hearing his words, Jiang He felt torn and afraid, a flicker of fear shining in her clear, bright eyes. Shu Qing understood her worries. Taking her in was not easy for him either. For a while, both of them remained silent, as if time itself had stopped. After a moment, Jiang He broke the silence and asked, "So, what should I do?" Shu Qing replied, "First, you can't just draw your sword recklessly." Jiang He glanced around nervously before asking, "What about your wife? Am I supposed to stay here?" Shu Qing replied calmly that he had been single for 20 years. Their eyes met, and for a moment time seemed to stand still. But it was getting late, so Shu Qing first made arrangements for Jiang He's accommodation. After cleaning the house thoroughly and setting up the bed, he reminded her to rest early, and then, not forgetting the basics, he introduced himself. "Hello, my name is Shu Qing." What was the reason that made Shu Qing go out to buy women's underwear? Was it responsibility, or was it love? Soft moonlight streamed into the room, illuminating Shu Qing's clear, bright eyes as he replayed the events of the day in his mind, which felt almost like a dream. What should have been an ordinary, uneventful day had become extraordinary because of the sudden appearance of a girl. Lost in these wandering thoughts, Shu Qing gradually drifted off to sleep until dazzling sunlight fell across his youthful face. He slowly opened his eyes, glanced at his phone, and realized it was already 10 o'clock. Startled, Shu Qing hurried out of bed and quietly leaned against the door, peeking into the living room. Jiang He was already awake, sitting there calmly, looking unexpectedly cute and charming. She noticed Shu Qing behind the door as well, and he awkwardly muttered to himself that everything from yesterday really hadn't been a dream, then greeted her with a soft good morning. It was nearly noon, and Shu Qing asked with concern whether she was hungry. "A little," Jiang He replied. She then searched herself from head to toe, as if looking for something, before darting back into the bedroom. A moment later, she returned and placed a few pieces of broken silver into Shu Qing's hand, seeming to feel it wasn't enough, and even took off the jade pendant she was wearing. Shu Qing quickly stopped her and returned the silver, telling her he didn't need any repayment. Looking at Jiang He standing in front of him, Shu Qing noticed that although she was wearing modern clothes, they didn't really fit her. An oversized top and pants with hems that were far too long made her look awkward and almost comical. While it was more normal than her old coarse robes, it still felt strange, and changing into properly fitting modern clothes would probably be better. After washing up, Shu Qing headed to the shopping mall, thinking about what daily necessities to buy. After some consideration, he decided to start with clothes that fit her properly, and soon began shopping without restraint. After finishing his purchases, Shu Qing passed by a women's underwear store and couldn't help but fall into thought. You might imagine that a wife from 1,000 years ago would be a gentle, refined swordswoman, but in reality, she's a full-blown foodie. Buying daily necessities for Jiang He completely wore Shu Qing out, staring at the items in his hands, his face flushed with embarrassment before he turned and headed into a bookstore to pick up some history books, obviously for her. After returning home, Shu Qing still felt a bit at a loss when he saw Jiang He holding her sword. But even so, he handed her lunch and gently reassured her that this place was absolutely safe and that she didn't need to worry, telling her, "These are the daily necessities I bought. Tidy things up after you finish eating." Suddenly, in a fit of nerdy enthusiasm, Shu Qing asked, "Aren't you supposed to say thank you, young hero, right now? Do I count as a hero or a righteous warrior?" Jiang He looked at him as if he were an idiot, her eyes full of confusion. It was mealtime anyway, and she was clearly hungry, hugging the food and devouring it without restraint. Watching her, Shu Qing couldn't help thinking that she was nothing like the heroic swordswoman he had imagined. After eating her fill, Shu Qing had Jiang He try on the new clothes he bought for her, a pair of flats and a long dress. On top of that, he had even thoughtfully bought her underwear, but since they were all women's items, he felt too embarrassed to explain and simply let her figure them out herself. He had also bought some books, which could at least help her gain a basic understanding of history. Once everything was arranged, Shu Qing decided to have a proper talk with her. Jiang He was curious about his identity, but as for Shu Qing, he was nothing more than a fresh graduate about to step into society. As Jiang He flipped through the history book in her hands, one illustration caught her eye, and perhaps overcome by memories, tears began to well up in her eyes. Shu Qing didn't know how to comfort her, so he quickly changed the subject and asked how she had come to this world. Jiang He said she had been chasing a petty thief, got lost in the woods, and then saw those towering buildings. Shu Qing comforted her by saying that since she was already here, she should make the best of it because only by living well would there be any chance of going back. What would it be like to have a wife from 1,000 years ago, one who also happens to be a master martial artist? After learning how skilled Zhang He truly was, Shu Qing couldn't help but start fantasizing about legendary martial arts techniques and eagerly asked her whether he had any talent for training. Zhang He told him bluntly that he was already too old, and even with determination he probably wouldn't achieve much, but Shu Qing didn't mind at all. Being able to learn even a move or two would be more than enough for him. Zhang He didn't hold back and immediately had him start with basic stance training, explaining that all martial arts begin with strengthening the core and building a solid foundation. Yet Shu Qing clearly had little enthusiasm for holding a horse stance. She patiently reassured him that martial arts required long-term dedication and that everyone started from the basics. Undeterred, Shu Qing then shifted his focus to sword training, only to receive an even more discouraging response, which left him thoroughly deflated, so he decided to have Zhang He try on the clothes he had bought for her instead. While she was changing, Shu Qing picked up the sword and swung it around a few times himself, but within seconds he completely gave up on the idea of practicing martial arts. Zhang He soon came out already changed, and at that moment she looked gentle, graceful, and strikingly elegant. Shu Qing thoughtfully asked her to turn around to see if the clothes fit properly, only then realizing he had forgotten to buy a hair tie, so he asked her to let her hair down for now and said they would go buy one later that evening. As dusk approached, the two got ready to head out, and Shu Qing reminded her not to speak casually and to save any questions for when they got home. He even secretly took a photo of her with his phone, capturing how playful and adorable she looked. Once everything was set, the two went out together like a couple, the evening glow reflecting softly on their faces, creating a peaceful and tranquil scene. After briefly chatting with some elderly neighbors at the entrance of the complex, Shu Qing quickly led Zhang He away. As they walked along the sidewalk, the car speeding past caught Zhang He's attention, and Shu Qing explained that they were automobiles, describing them so vividly that a strange, hard-to-imagine creature formed in her mind. He then went on to introduce what he called the all-seeing eyes above their heads, even teasing her a little on purpose. Just as Shu Qing was talking animatedly, Zhang He suddenly turned toward a nearby flower bed. Seeing the stone in her hand, Shu Qing had no idea what she was about to do and asked, "Why are you picking up a rock?" Zhang He didn't answer, but judging by her stance, Shu Qing immediately understood and could only look at her with helpless resignation. Having a wife from 1,000 years ago, Shu Qing's life instantly turns into a shamelessly sweet love story. On her first trip out shopping, Zhang He finds everything in the modern world unfamiliar. Luckily, Shu Qing acts as her guide to the present day, yet even so, she still looks a little overwhelmed by it all. The countless shops and the non-stop stream of cars on the streets make her feel uneasy. Shu Qing takes her to a small stall selling hair ties, and among the dazzling choices, he picks out a blue bow for her. With her hair tied into a ponytail, Zhang He looks even more playful and charming, like a lotus just emerging from the water. After that, Shu Qing takes her out to eat, and once they are full and satisfied, the two of them head home in high spirits. Back at home, Shu Qing mutters to himself that if her identity issue can be solved, she could enjoy so many things in this world. For someone far from home, the longing for one's homeland is something nothing else can replace. Yet after crossing 1,200 years, how could she possibly just go back as if nothing happened? Zhang He asks how her identity problem can be resolved, and Shu Qing admits he doesn't really know either, but believes there are always more solutions than difficulties. The most urgent issue right now is how Zhang He can fit into modern society, which, in Shu Qing's eyes, isn't too big a problem. Zhang He then asks why identification is so important, and Shu Qing explains that without proper ID, everything from food and housing to travel would be affected, and if any disputes arise, there would be no way to deal with them. The identity issue leaves Shu Qing completely overwhelmed, so he sends Zhang He off to read some history books for the time being. Zhang He, however, feels like she's become a burden and asks dejectedly, "Am I causing you trouble?" Shu Qing casually replies, "It's fine, as long as you don't go around hitting people." After sending Zhang He away, Shu Qing still gets nowhere, until he suddenly remembers his close friend Qin Hao, a patrol police officer who might have a way to help solve Zhang He's identity problem. He decides to ask him out for some late-night barbecue. Once there's finally a hint of progress on the identity issue, Shu Qing feels much more relaxed. After taking a hot shower, he's in an especially good mood, but then suddenly remembers there's a woman named Zhang He at home. He immediately dashes into the room, and at the very same moment Shu Qing returns, Zhang He slips into the bathroom as well, washing away the exhaustion and worries of the day.